1 Peter 4, 8 through 11. Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. As each one has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the multifaceted grace of God. Whoever speaks is to do so as one who is speaking actual words of God. Whoever serves is to do as one who is serving by the strength which God supplies, so that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belongs the glory and dominion forever and ever. This scripture kind of just gives us a thing. Look where it starts off. And that's where any Christian needs to start off with, is love. Why do we do the things we do? It's because we love. Why do you do the things you do for your family, to try to help them sometimes? It's not always because they're the greatest receiver of different things. It's because you love your family. The church family and the church family of God should be the same way. If you will now turn to Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 10. Ephesians 2 and verse 10. Each one of these covers how that we have things that we need to be using. Ephesians 2 and 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that we would walk in them. Walking in good works, walking and doing things to serve our Lord. You look at Jesus training the apostles. And did they always at first understand what he was saying? No. But he spent time training them. And then when he was raised from the dead, he gave them something that was even greater. The Spirit, the leadership of the Spirit, to help them remember what he had taught and help them remember what they should do as they went forward. And how could that, look at the difference and the change it made in them. Look at how the life of almost every one of them ended, to the point of willing to give their life. And the third place I want you to turn to is 1 Corinthians 4, verses 1 and 2. 1 Corinthians 4, 1 through 2. This is the way any person is to regard us, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. In this case, moreover, it is required of stewards that one be found trustworthy. What does it mean to be found trustworthy? What do you think that means to you? To be found trustworthy. Faithful, and that relates to actually doing something. It's not just knowing it, is it? It's actually performing. One of the things is, as you see in regard to deacons, they're to be found trustworthy before they become a deacon. In other words, they have done things already that you see, and you know you can trust them to take care of what they need to do. But this is the charge for every Christian. Every Christian has this same responsibility. We need to ask ourselves, how do we attain these abilities? Now, I know everybody does not have the same natural abilities. And we read in many places in the Scripture where the Lord is the one who is the giver of abilities. You know, some of our talents are easy to see. And one of the words that's used in regard to that, it's a natural talent, a born talent. You know, they even have I went through 23andMe, and they even, based on your DNA, come back, and one part of that they look at in regard to that is this person what is classified as a natural athlete. Guess what? I didn't necessarily get the best part of that gene, evidently. But we're going to talk about another method for developing abilities. We see that life experiences that come from our involvements may reveal other talents. You just think of the things that you have learned over the years, the practices. Now, when you were going through football practice, Could you see a difference in a person that maybe wasn't a natural athlete, but they were willing to practice hard? They were willing to try, and they had something right here too, a heart for trying, even when maybe they didn't have all the talent in the world. Coaches see that, I think, a lot of times. And if a coach can bring that out, do you realize that we have coaches in our brotherhood? And that's one of the challenges that we have, even in the church, is to bring out the talent in the individuals, help them improve. As we go through life, we may not understand that some of our abilities may be hidden for a time. Have you ever, as you go through life, kind of figured out, you know, based on the things that I've learned and the things that I've practiced, I think I can really do this now. I enjoy doing this now. I never had a problem in football and with hitting somebody. That was the easiest thing I ever did. I could lay a leg. That's what the coach used to say and everything like that. And but let me tell you, I played on offense too. I got licks laid on me by those people across the defensive line over there. I played fullback in the wishbone. I got hit on every play, and that was part of my job, is to take up that defender. As we go through life, sometimes we find out we have other talents that we're still developing. With practice, some of these new talents may be revealed to us so that we can really see them. You know, we may learn these talents from others around us, people that share what they have done. With practice, some new talents are going to be revealed, and a new opportunity to serve may be given to us. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about more as we get into the characteristics. As we look at these talents, sometimes these talents that we have developed because we've been around for a while, we've experienced things, we've seen things that don't work, and I live sometimes by this, the rule of hard knocks. Knowing that wasn't exactly the way you need to do this. We've learned by that, and we have improved our talents in that area because of that experience. We don't need to overlook. You know, we talk about the Spirit, and the Scriptures, especially the New Testament, talks a ton about the Spirit, remission of sins, and you will be given what? The gift, the Spirit. And we sometimes don't think that really affects each one of us, but from what the Scripture said is it can. So sometimes we need to look and think about the Spirit, and it may be leading us to some opportunities. Have you ever been in a situation where I know when I was at Robinson Center one time, a guy got up and he was talking about wanting somebody to go on a mission effort, foreign mission effort with him. And I'd always kind of thought of it this way. Well, he's talking to Mike. He's talking to Alan. He's talking to somebody else. And then, I don't know why it came in my head that day, but I thought, you know, maybe he's talking to me. And I ended up going with him 2 different times to Romania, and the experience that I had there was amazing to see how God works. It's just like I saw, I've told y'all before, the lady that was almost one step ahead of me in every study I had with her. And somebody in this country had been sending her the Bible correspondence courses. And then when I got to the day where we were talking about, and for scriptures, I always let them read them. I wanted them to read them. And then my question was, what is this saying to you? And she said, yes, and that's what I want to do. And you talking about, I just had to smile a little bit, because sometimes we need to see that the door has been opened and not get in the way of it. Just let the door be open. So that's one of the things in regard to talents that we need to learn sometimes. I'm going to provide one more handout tonight as you leave. And what it is our willing to serve type things that we have here. But I use that in a lot of what I'm going to go through now in regard to how we can use our abilities to serve the Lord here at this church. And if you will, we'll be on this now. We may not be able to cover them all, but you've got it with you. You can take it back. You can think of it. Now, remember, like I said, the things underneath this are not exhaustive. It may be some other format. And also, you need to look at it this way. A lot of these things that we can do, you don't have to have a title to do them. You do them because you're a Christian and because you want to show love and you want to show caring. If you want to make a difference in somebody when they see that you care and can listen to them, and you don't always have to do a whole lot of response, just listen to what they're saying, they can see in you that you do care. The first one is entertaining characteristics. That characteristic of being able to entertain. You ever known people that have that ability? There's some ladies over at Robinson Center. Each year when they had the Ladies' Day, they'd have the speaker come in, but there was also 3 or 4 of those ladies, and they started a group called Church Ladies. They were like a comedy team from everything I'd ever seen before. These ladies would get up and go through some kind of thing. And Mikey, if she was in here, she could tell you about them. But these ladies used that entertaining talent to make people smile, to make people enjoy, but they got across points, too. And these speakers, a lot of time when you see them come in, you know, they have that ability, too, not only to instruct, but kind of entertain you going through that. Okay, here's some things. Warm and hospitable. People feel okay around you. Do you have that? You just know that people feel comfortable around you sometimes and are willing to share things with you. What can I do? I could make visits to shut-ins. I could become a greeter. You can use your talents in a parody. That's what I was kind of talking about, the ladies or something like that. Just do. And it doesn't have to be a real serious thing. It can be a fun thing. But just allowing people sometimes, we got enough in this world to worry about and to cry over. Sometimes a good little comedy type thing like that is worth its weight in gold. Pass on that talent to others. Those church ladies, and now I've seen it kind of passed on from the first ones that were doing it over at the Robinson Center to some of their kids and other people there at the church. And I've seen it now at numerous places. I don't know if they got a chance to come and they saw that, well, let's do that at ours. But it could be something done at a men's retreat or something like that. Each year the men, for a long time there in Magnolia, we took off a weekend and we went to the lake. Now, at Lake DeGray, where we were, the primary thing that we wanted to make sure we had available was food. There was a big fish house right outside of Lake DeGray. There was a golf course. Some liked to golf. And there was always a fishing tournament going on. But the devotionals that night that we did and the time that we spent together allowed us to learn. What they would do, they would pair, especially in the fishing tournament, I would go out, but I would take like a team or maybe somebody, a real young person with me. And one of the tournaments we won. And we won with the weirdest thing. We caught an albino bass that day that was big. But just different things like that. We don't always need to be so serious in nature where we don't enjoy and be able to smile with one another, because it's enough things going on otherwise. The next one, and by the way, stop me. If you think of others, what I want you to do is start, okay, put down another one. Just think of other things, the way that that talent can be used. Ability to entertain. Recruiting. And this may be somebody that's just a little bit different from entertaining, but a lot of times it is. You find it easy to recruit. You find it easy to rally somebody or motivate people. A lot of times when you bring speakers in, and I know the ladies are talking about trying to do that, isn't that right? For the future, bring in a speaker or have something like that where they can be motivated. You know, where do our kids, where do they get a lot of their motivation from? Or where did you in the past, did you take part in things as a teenager that motivated you? Now, it may have only lasted a week or two, but where was it? Yep, camps, summer camps, church camps, things like that. I remember going to a church camp with somebody's son who had a little accident and broke his arm. Okay, my next assignment was we had a nurse there, and we take him to the hospital. And then we call his mama. It was Susan. But at church camp, you see things come out in those teens and the young people, and what you pray for is, Lord, let that not be the only time this comes out. Stick this in their memory, because they're going to go through things in their life, and they need something to fall back upon. So things like that, recruiting people that can basically go out and the best recruiter I've ever seen in my life in the church was Glenn Pace, and I know some of you may know him. He was the preacher downtown when Mikey and I still lived in Searcy, and we went to downtown church at that time. Not the college church, we went to the downtown one. But a year before we moved to Magnolia, Glenn Pace moved to Magnolia. Okay, during that year, I got a deal from the legislative audit that they were looking for a person to move to Camden, to Magnolia, or to Texarkana. Guess what place I chose? Glenn Pace was at Magnolia. I had never lived at Magnolia. Mike and I moved to Magnolia, and he became such a big part of our life. But Glenn Pace took a church that was about 150 at that time, and he had people coming in all the time. We had 250 people left before he kind of semi-retired and moved back up to the Searcy area at that point in time. But he could, we had senators, we had mayors. He even converted a youth minister at the Methodist church there that ended up going back to Harding and became a Harding Bible professor. And he just had the talent to do that. And he had another lyric talent or ability to write poems that was great too. You ought to have seen the day when we had our senior appreciation day there in Magnolia. Every person there, he wrote a specific poem related to that person and used them in it. You don't think that impressed them? If you've got that talent, and we're going to talk about that one a little bit further down, community appreciation events, you know, that's something we can do locally. It could be public safety, it could be a number of different groups like that, but we need to find ways to get out in the community, and if you have this recruiting ability, we want you to be a part of it. Interview. Do you do interviews at the church? Brady, you do an interview at the church? Do you do an interview at the church? You ever do one? Okay, somebody comes in that door. What's one of the first things? I hadn't met you yet. Where are you from? Are you visiting with us today? Are you locally? That's an interview. And when you do those questions like that, one of the things you want to make sure is you're focusing on them. You know, those that that are new to our church. Encourage and recommend ways the congregation can invite others. If you have this recruiting ability, you may know of better ways to get the message out and to be able to invite others. Everybody is not going to be able to respond to the same technique, but you may know a way, whether it's asking your neighbors, whether it is inviting their kids to come and their neighbors, the parents, then follow. I've seen that happen many times. Consider motivational ideas that can be implemented to create interest in inviting others. There's so many ways that we can recruit. Researching. Now, over the years, I've had to research a whole lot, and I bet that guy right back there, Alan, probably has researched a lot of different things over the internet and everything else over the years, especially being in the library system. Researching. Research mission requests for supports. Find out what they're about. Find out opportunities to serve. And you don't necessarily always have to research mission requests from 4 countries over. You can do it, look at mission requests or needs or things that where it would be a mission field here in the state, here locally. Materials to be utilized in class. Hey, you can get most materials right now, at least, and look at them on the internet and review and see what that material says and see if it would be acceptable for use. That's just another way. That's the way professors, when they're looking at changing their textbooks, if they hadn't written it themselves, they'll go out and look at that textbook and see that if it accomplishes what they're trying to do in that class that they're teaching. There's so much of that going on today. One of the things about mission and mission efforts, unless you can see firsthand where it is going, you can't just send money out anywhere anymore. You need to know. You need to know that it's being utilized for the purpose that it's being sent for. And yes, that makes foreign missions harder, doesn't it? Can you afford always to send people around the world to observe that? Now, there's other ways to do that. If there's people that you know in that area that have a direct experience, for instance, with the disaster that occurred in Houston and the fires out west like that, we have received some requests for those type things. And even those, you want to ascertain that in research and make sure that what you're doing and assisting them and helping them is being going to what the purpose is. This just shows, well, I don't know, maybe sometimes I spend too much time on the internet, but even these things you see on TV where they're trying only $19 a month and you can save a child, $19 a month and you can save a dog, $19 a month and you can save an elephant. Now, all of those public ones like that are required by law to have audited financial statements that you can get access to. I looked at a few of them. The CEOs are making $1 million. What does that tell you? You think we don't still have some responsibility in the church where we're sending money to ascertain that it is going to the purpose that we sent it for? And we do. We have to take that, or at least have somebody that we know that can watch and make sure that it's going for that purpose. Suggestion for new service opportunities. You know, we may think that we've hit all the different methods for serving, but we may find by going to other churches, by looking at theirs and seeing things that they do, that there's something that we don't have to redevelop the whole thing over again. We can find out the things that they have done. And that saves time. That's one thing that researching hopefully saves future time because you already have information. Now, the next one on the next page there is something I don't have a lot of talent therein. But there's some ladies here and other people I know that do have this talent, and that's artistic. You enjoy drawing, painting, bringing their talent to conceptualize through the use of a vivid imagination. How can you use this talent in the church? Assist teachers in classroom decorations that relate to the class. You know, if they're going to be going through a study of something like that, hey, help them develop a board to put in there or a picture to put on their door or something like that. Just some kind of visual aid that can draw attention to maybe create excitement in those going into that study and that class area. You can develop materials for use in special church projects or events. You know, the Ladies' Day's coming up. Different things like that, and like the ladies' breakfast is coming up. Well, maybe we need to look at some art. You know, we're going to have to probably get some of the ladies to help in this, but maybe we could do something to do decorations that are a little bit different. It's just like the potluck we had Sunday. Didn't that look good in there? And it doesn't take a lot, but the ability to use that talent makes things be more attractive, and it makes people to feel better too. And that's what we're trying to do. Teach others your talent. Almost every one of these probably should have that. If you don't share that and teach somebody else, guess what? It may not just come out naturally in somebody. You need to train them and give them some ideas or sources to use to help develop that. Graphics, most of the graphics now is almost computer type generated, but you understand how to lay out, design, and create displays. On these boards out here that come in like that. The ladies, when they went to the 2 retreats, have you just stopped and kind of look at those things? You think, and if they'd asked me to do that, I don't necessarily think I would have done it that way because I'm not talented like that. But just look at all those little pictures of those ladies, our ladies, that were involved in those events and others like that. Hopefully that encourages others to participate in things like that going into the future. Help develop displays at special church events, graphics. Help develop recommendation on church. Here's something, just think about it. I know, and I never used to think about this until I got to colleges, but the critical part about developing letterhead at a university that was creative and would draw attention. You don't think we could do that in a church? Maybe the letters that we send out, the things that we send out, and the multitude of ways that we send out things, but develop some little smart ideas to make people think, that's, first of all, it's pretty. Second of all, it gets a message across. Design cards and other materials that can be shared, such as get well cards, prayer cards, invitation cards to unique or special events. I've been in a church where every time that the elders prayed for an individual, we had a card that somebody had developed for us there, and we basically said on there, we brought you before the Lord today, and then we would write a special note, and each one of us would sign it. Just something along the line of to let them know that we're thinking about them, we're praying for them. But wouldn't it be nice if we had some nice little designer type cars to do that were, that maybe had a Heber Springs flavor to it, the mountain. Every time I drive in from Tumbling Shoals back in across before I get to the dam, and I see the mountain there, I call it the mountain, hill. But the first thing I think of, if they put a little curved thing down through there and we had some snow, we could ski. That was the first thing when I moved up here I used to think about. That'd be a good place to ski. But now I think more along the line, isn't that beautiful? Hasn't God put beauty around us? So why can't we develop things like that? And if you have those type talents, that would be great. By the way, again, stop me. I have a tendency to roll and roll and roll. Evaluating. You can make logical conclusions based on the data you have reviewed. Here's one of the things. Make a list of project events where an annual evaluation book would be useful. Maybe you want to consult with the deacons, elders, ministers, and other members over what projects we really should evaluate each year. Did they accomplish what we were trying to do? Could we modify them to accomplish more? If you have an evaluating type, I know that was one of my charges at different places where I would look at procedures and policies and things like that and things that had happened. Did we accomplish what we wanted to do? But if you have that talent, maybe that would be a good committee type thing where you could take the things that we have, look at them. Can we improve on them? Can we find a little different way so we can get better results? The ladies, one of the things they improved on just recently was they moved from Tuesday to Thursday. Us guys now know why they did that. So we found out the rest of the story. I'm not saying we got, that they just pulled one over on us, but they did. But, you know, we don't always have to do things the same way. And really, most of the time, the men don't go out to eat lunch. And we found out that there's a lot of places shut down on Tuesdays for lunch in Heber Springs. Ayers is open. Red Apple Inn is open. Other than hamburger and Kentucky Fried, that's about all. Or Mexican food, they never close. Be a part of the review of projects, events completed to determine if congregational goals have been accomplished and if changes could be made. One of the things all the way back to my time in different social clubs over the years, we had a policy that when we were doing the project, we set the standards of it first. We went out and did the project, and then we would come back and write, was the project a success, or did we need to change it? Sometimes I think we miss out on a few things like that. We need to look and decide, okay, we did this, but it could be better. And how can we make it better? Got any ideas on making things better? I think my wife suggests a few ways real regular around my house, and I'm sure several of you do like that. Susan, you don't ever suggest improvements for Mike, do you? Never? Yeah. That's one of those questions that if you don't answer it in the right way, we'll hear more about it tonight, later on. The next one is planning. You're able to strategize with others and assist in the design and organization of programs and events. And all I did right here is just list some of the different things that require some planning to do them. Hostess group, ladies' days, retreats, trips, special church events. It could be potluck, anything else like that. Oh, the fish fry, the ladies' breakfast coming up on August the 20-something, I think, is when that's scheduled for this year, 24th to 28th, somewhere in there. It requires a little bit of planning, and we guys like to have our ducks in a row. I know where Dick is going to be already. John, is he upstairs? I know where John's going to be most of the time, too. But we all have our little duties that we do there during that day. And once we kind of learn those, we get set in our ways and we try to do the same thing unless somebody bumps us out, and that's okay. Church calendar. I know Laurie is working on the church calendar for the month of August, so she called and asked me about a couple of things. But as we go, we need to work through and assist. You know, Laurie's the one that kind of puts it on paper and puts it before us and puts it out here, but we need to make sure we get things scheduled so people know how long they've got in preparation of these things. Teacher appreciation. Now, this is something I don't know that we've done here sometime, but still I think it's good to do it periodically. Is like a little teacher appreciation banquet, kind of like we do the appreciation for the ladies, where we do the breakfast for them. We've got people that have taught year after year after year after year, and we need to say thank you for those individuals taking on that task going forward. Even that, and I know that there used to be youth rallies here, and I'm hoping one day to have that again. I know in Magnolia, in the first part of 2020, we had a class for 1 year, and actually 3 age groups had those classes like that. And guess where we were coming that fall? The Heber Springs Bible Bowl. Guess what derailed it in 2020? COVID. And those kids were, oh, we've been studying this, we're ready. And we had about 30 that we were going to bring up here at that time. But that got derailed. I'd like to see something like that. I'm hoping that we can get enough teams, and maybe we can do something with the surrounding congregations for bringing their youth in and being a part of development of something like that. But youth rallies, things like that where you get together, have speakers and do different things like that. And of course, that's not anywhere near all of the different type things. Promoting. Now, this is something that people, one of the things Mike just talked to us about is about doing radio spots again here of some type here, and he's going to be working on that. But okay, you know how to advertise, promote events, or to reach a targeted audience. That's on page 4 there, start of that. You know how to do things like that. You know how to find out who to contact, and go forward. And then you can recommend what are the best ways to get information out to others. And that's not just people outside. What is the best way to get information out to our members? Luckily, right before COVID hit, we had put in a new software system in the church there in Magnolia, Jackson Street, and it allowed us in the demographics for individuals to put the different ways they could be contacted. Text, phone, some didn't have a phone, so we basically knew we had to go out and see them, but different ways, email, but we would list the primary way. And then the system allowed us to pull the population of that specific type, and here's the ones we can send text to. Here's the ones we can send email to that want it done that way. Here's the ones that we might need to do a letter or go out and see them or call them. What are the best ways to get to your recommended group? And the same way could be focused on outside the church too. How do we get information out to the community? Can we do things out to draw attention and get to a segment that we're trying to reach? Now, this is the one that we have, thank goodness, several individuals, and we've had enough of repairing going on lately. Repairing, you enjoy fixing, restoring, maintaining items for future facility development needs, that type of thing. Maintenance of facilities and renovations. Dwight is the one over building maintenance and things like that, and he has been having to do a lot of things lately. Terry is helping with that part of the sound system. Terry's having to do a lot of things here lately because we had a lightning strike that took out quite a bit of our equipment upstairs, and I think a few other things. And then evidently something happened to the oven in the preacher's house. So things that we didn't exactly plan on, but we have to have people to help when that. Handicap access. Over at the annex, do you think the access is better over there than it was a year ago? Hopefully it is. But that's not the only place that needs to be. Future, you got to look at bathrooms, you got to look at other things around here to provide handicap access. Outdoor sign maintenance and changing the letters on the board. Eugene, how's that going? But we need to make a few repairs in it, don't we, from what I hear, and they're trying to do that. Church van maintenance. That's going to occur whether you want it to or not. The last time they took a van, I said, where did they go that it broke down? Where's that at? What happened? You know, there's always things, isn't it? And the thing about it is you never typically wear out those vans, their church van. The two things is you have problems with, sometimes you don't drive it enough and the wheels dry rot, and you have to change the tires out, the brakes have problems, and you don't want your kids on the side of the road, for sure. So we need people to help maintain that van. And then we need people to begin looking for planning for future events. These are things that would fall under somewhat repairing and planning for the future in regard to the facilities. Now, we're blessed here with the next one. Cooking. Creation of meals or meal plans for small or large group. By the way, guess how many we had Sunday at the potluck? How many? 74. Guess how many we had for worship Sunday? 109. That's real close to 75% that went over there. Maybe the largest percentage or number that we've had go over there. But one of the things in that occurred that made me kind of start thinking there is there a better way to arrange the tables in there to get more people in? That's something that we need to look at. But there's things like that we got people that have so much ability, we want to make sure they come. Those people are visiting that day. We don't want to just say, why don't you come? Let's grab our hands and say, let's go eat. And some of that occurred on Sunday. But prepare meals for shut-ins. I know that's done periodically of members here. But, it doesn't necessarily just have to be members here. If we hear of others, there's nothing to say that we couldn't do that for others. Potluck meals, thank goodness. That was a good meal Sunday and everything like that. I'll go back and the easy chair and Paul get comfortable after being home about an hour after that. And I'm sure that is for a lot of guys. And I think some of the ladies are wore out by that time too. Meals for families who have lost loved ones or maybe in a hospital or going through things like that. I know we do a lot of that, but that's just, if you have that ability to cook and to serve, these are different ways that can happen. Meals for families in need. Periodically, that happens, and we need to think about that. And think about that when you create that and you go out and you take that to the family. Of course, you've already talked to them and let them know that you're coming out like that. But what kind of image does that put in their mind when you take a meal out to them? Doesn't it put an image that you care, that you're willing to do something, that you could have been at home doing your other stuff, but you're doing that and they're thinking about me. One of the things I looked at, I was trying to remember where I looked, it was somebody had shared that this week, and I read a deal about the way to help a person overcome depression is get them involved in thinking about others. People who are going through depression of type are focused here, but if you can get them focused on something else, it helps them. It helps them think about something else. And they see, maybe, well, I know my need is bad, but others have needs too. And that changes even their view of it. Now, here's the thing that I wish I had the talent of, and I try to work on this. It gets harder, I think, as I get older, is recall. And we have a few people here who we see somebody come in, we don't know them, and I know always to go to them. Do you know this person? And that, yeah, he was here 10 or 15 years ago, or something like that. Recall. The ability to remember names, faces, and information. Share names with others who may not know them. That's something simple we can do. Another thing, make sure others welcome our visitors and guests they may not know. And then here's another, even future, you've got to think when somebody's coming in like that and you learn their name, and maybe they're just visiting with us for the first time. Develop a process to share that information with the deacons, elders, and ministers. They don't always fill out a card, but they might do it if you take a card to them. You know, so we can get that name, so we can get that information, so we can follow that up with a letter or different things like that. Mechanical technology. You know how to operate equipment, tools or machinery, and operate or update software. Terry, is this important in the software area? I tell you, software, especially like that, is, somebody was talking about the first computer they had that had something like a hard drive within it. They had 10 megabytes of storage space on that unit. 10 megabytes today wouldn't get you anywhere. It wouldn't even make the software you have operational of data like that. But we know we've had some problems with air conditioning here. I believe it's working tonight. Heater maintenance, baptistry maintenance, review of the technology, equipment, and the software updates, and repairs when the lightning strikes them. sound system maintenance and software, Wi-Fi maintenance and operations, to have our ability to send the information out so people can get it off of the web. You got to have that Wi-Fi working. Worship and class digital distribution services. You know, what is needed to assist some teachers maybe sometimes in their classrooms? These kids today, when they're in that classroom, guess what they've been using, and probably are more knowledgeable than a lot of us? They've been using software and games and stuff like that since the time. I remember when my grandson was 5 years old. He was playing a game one day. And I said, well, let me try it. And I did it and goofed up and got killed. And he said, he showed me, he said, here's what you do. I did it again and I got killed again. And then he's 5 years old and he looks at me and said, Pops, I'm going to show you one more time. Listen this time. These kids are used to that. They find it easy to learn that way today. They grew up with it. Yeah. And they catch things fast, a lot faster than we think. But that's just, you know, one of the ways that we can use in regard to there, to be able to do that. Mathematical, now this is something that it may not be exciting all the time, but you enjoy working with numbers, data, and budgets. Now, of course, I had a master's in business and accounting degree from Harding. Well, and then I became a CPA. So people always think, "Oh, you're just a numbers guy." Somewhat, I did that a whole lot in my life. One of the things that after I retired, I said, I'm backing off from some of that. I want to do some of the other things that I love doing, and I love woodworking. And I have learned how to develop a few things like that. But research or assist the treasurer, help develop the budget. Now, as we go through and installing, we've installed new deacons, one of the things we're turning over to them is in the budget areas, we're giving them a budget related to the task they're charged with performing, and it's under their responsibility to help manage that areas. We're not going to look at every other thing and decide whether you should spend it that way or not. We're letting them and those that are seeking to assist them in helping make those decisions. Financial statements, we need those periodically. Assist deacons with the budget information to accomplish their tasks. Things like this. Some of the deacons really are going to need your help, so they may be coming to you asking if they know that you have that. Even attendance records, knowing who is here, who we might need to really check on to find out what's going on. And classifying, you ever classify anything, Alan? Ever put, you just think about it in the library, all of that Dewey Decimal System. They still use that, by the way? Yeah, well, I remember the Dewey that kind of dates me maybe, but the Library of Congress. But the things like that is work in a resource room, classroom material, have a place where you store and file that, maintain our library and the books in there in some kind of organized fashion. Those are different ways that you can classify. We probably need to end it here at this point, but you can look at 22 through 26 and just see different things like that. What we're trying to do is we've been talking about these abilities. What we want to do is let you look, if you have this talent or you have developed this talent over the years and you want to use it, here's some opportunities to use it. Now, when you leave tonight, you're going to get the pass out. He has got a list of our willing to serve, the things where you sign up. And just to let you look at it again, the things that we have that you can sign up for doing things at the church. And by the way, we're looking at modifying that. We may, if you have things that we need to add on to it or things that we need to change, please suggest different things like that. But this is ours that we have used currently, that going forward, but look at those type things that are on there. And we just wanted to make sure that you know about those things, but they really tie back to these same things here. The abilities you have and how you can use them. Alan, would you lead us in prayer as we end here? Yeah.
If you would like to get involved in making things happen, I'll tell you a quick little story. We, as Sojourners, finished a church building in Wolf Point, Montana, some years back. Wolf Point, Montana is a town of about 3,000 people, and half of it's on an Indian reservation. They had been meeting in a motel room for 6 years. There was a small number, about 12 total in attendance at this church. We finished the church building for them. Actually, we raised some money and finished it because they didn't have the money to finish it. They was planning on taking 2 more years. So we got this thing finished in the fall of the year, and they decided they wanted to have a youth rally. When I mentioned youth rally earlier, that rung the bell. So they planned a youth rally for the month of February in Wolf Point, Montana. That is northern Montana. It snows, they say, 1 time a year, but they keep it all year long. It never melts. It just blows here and there. And 40 degrees below us, that's normal in the wintertime. And in February, they had a youth rally. And out of 12 families, they put this thing together and worked at it. Anything's possible. The only thing that limits anything is your imagination and your willingness. They had 87 kids in the month of February in Wolf Point, Montana, at a youth rally. So we can do anything we want to do if we set our mind to it. Get involved. If you see an area you could help in, would like to, step up. I just want to let that be known that this rung the bell.
You know, there's just different things. Don't be afraid to suggest other things to do, basically is what's being said. Look at these things, but please just fill in. It's a lot of them that you can just do on your own, and we appreciate that. Alan, if you will, lead us in prayer.